Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Phil Hinton, and in this video we're looking at the LG C5. Now the settings that we're about to show you are for the C5, and that's the TV that we're using to demonstrate on, but this will work for all LG TVs from 2025 backwards. Some of the settings are not available on older models, but we're not going to cover too much of that in this video. What we're going to do is show you initial setup, so energy saving and so on, those things that you need to switch off to get the best out of the TV. Then we'll show you SDR, HDR and Dolby Vision picture settings, which we'll be using the Filmmaker mode. So we're not going to go into any calibrated settings or anything like that. This is the best out of the box performance for your LG TV, for your LG C5 in this video. So let's get started. So on switching the TV on for the first time, or maybe your TV already looks like this, or maybe you have another mode selected here. We'll come back to picture in a second because there's a few very important settings that we need to take care of before we even start with the picture side of things. The first thing is that we need to go into the general menu here, and we need to go down to AI service. Then we need to go all the way to the bottom here to AI recommendation. We're going to go in here and we're going to switch off smart tips. And if smart tips and settings is switched on, you want to switch that off as well. And then we want to go back to the general menu. We're then going to go down to OLED care. And then we're going to go to OLED panel care. And in here, we just need to make sure that we switch the logo brightness to off. Now, if you are a little bit worried about image retention and so on, you can leave that on. I like to switch that off. So I'm getting the absolute best out of the TV, but then I'm going to use mixed content. I'm not going to be video gaming for hours on end and so on. So if you are going to be doing that, maybe leave that switched on. Screen move, it moves the screen by 1 pixel every so often. It does this again to mitigate against image retention. If you're not worried about image retention or screen burn, you can also switch that off, and then you're getting pixel for pixel on the TV by doing that. We're then going to go all the way down to the settings right at the bottom, which is called energy saving. We're going to go in here, and this is very important. You need to go into here and switch it off. Now, you may ask, well, why would you do that? Because, you know, we want to not to waste energy and so on. If you're spending this type of money on a TV, you want the full image brightness, you want to get the full performance from the TV, you need to come in here and you need to switch energy saving off if you want the full potential of the TV. And then once we get back to the general menu, another thing that you may want to do is to go into system here, and we want to go down to additional settings. And then we want to go into home settings. The reason we want to do that is home promotion is the advertising that you will see on WebOS. Switch that off if you don't want to see the adverts at the top, in the top 1/3 of the WebOS screen. I absolutely detest this. You've paid an awful lot of money for your TV. I don't think a TV manufacturer has the rights to serve you adverts. At least LG give you the option to switch it off here, so you can go in and switch that off. So that's everything really that you need to go through in terms of the extra settings in here. Another thing you may want to do is go to software update. Just go in here and check that it is the latest version just by clicking for checking for updates, and it'll say no update found if you're on the latest firmware. I set that to auto update as well, so it automatically updates when there's a new version of the software. If you want to make sure the software is what you want before it uploads onto the TV, then deselect this, then read the forums, check out what the latest update does before you go and install that on your TV. So that's all the initial settings that we need to do. Let's go into picture. And this is standard dynamic range that we're looking at. So this is normal TV, this is normal programming from satellite or from a tuner on the TV or from a set-top box or your Apple TV box or whatever, where it's an SDR signal. We're going to go into select mode here. We're going to go to Filmmaker mode, and we're going to click on OK. The other thing that we're going to do in here for 2025 TVs like this C5 is we're going to go into advanced settings here. We're going to go to brightness, and we're going to go all the way down to Filmmaker Mode Ambient. And if you are in a room that changes light during the day, so it's bright during the day and dim at night, Clicking this on will automatically adjust the brightness of the TV depending on the brightness of your room without compromising too much on the creator's intent. It's a brand new feature for 2025, Filmmaker Mode Ambient Light. Switch that on when you're in Filmmaker mode. So that's SDR setup. The only other thing that you may want to do is come into the clarity menu, go down to True Motion. If you see judder with 24 frames per second, and a lot of people are susceptible to judder, because of the near instantaneous pixel refresh on an OLED, it can make that issue a little bit worse. If you switch on cinematic movement, it adds a tiny amount of interpolation to the image, and I do see that. I'm very, very sensitive to interpolation, but you may get away with it. You may not see the smoothing, and it may just make 24 frames per second content that little bit easier for you to watch. So that is an option. It doesn't add soap opera effect, it adds a tiny little bit of interpolation. I'm going to leave it off, but you may want to leave that on. So that's everything there for standard dynamic range content. So that's everything that you normally watch on a day-to-day basis from your TV tuner and so on. I'm now going to feed the TV an HDR image, and we'll come back and we'll do HDR. So I'm now feeding the TV an HDR signal. So that's anything that you watch that is HDR10. So that could be on Netflix, it could be on Amazon Prime, anything like that where it's not Dolby Vision. It'll usually be HDR10 or HLG. So you'll be served with this menu. Now you know that you're in HDR because it will say HDR before whatever the select menu or mode is, or picture preset is. It will see HDR up here. If you don't see HDR up here, then you're not feeding the TV an HDR signal. So what are we going to do in here? Well, first of all, we're going to click on this. We're going to go to Filmmaker mode, and that's us done, basically, for HDR10. You've set everything else up. Apart from aspect ratio, I didn't do this in the SDR section. If you want to change this, you can go in and change that to original, and then just scan to on, and that means you're getting pixel for pixel in terms of the TV won't be upscaling if it's being given a 4K UHD signal. So that's everything that we need to do for HDR10. And like I say, it has to say HDR here for you to be in the correct menu, and you have to be watching an HDR10 piece of content for this menu to pop up. Right, so Dolby Vision is next. And just like HDR10, I'm now feeding the TV a Dolby Vision signal. You'll know it's Dolby Vision because it will say Dolby Vision up here in the picture menu. So if you're watching Dolby Vision content, it will then bring up this menu when you long press on the menu key. We want to go in here, and guess what? We're selecting Filmmaker mode, and that's it for in here. Again, if you want to set True Motion, you can come into here and do that. Again, the Filmmaker Mode Ambient, you can switch that on here as well for Dolby Vision, like we did with the SDR. And like I say, in the clarity menu, you can come down to True Motion, and you can switch on cinematic movement if you are susceptible to judder with 24 frames per second content. So that's everything that we're going to show you here. Yes, we didn't go into any settings and manipulate a lot of settings because we want the image to be as intended and as the creator intended. Filmmaker mode does that, and you can now select that in Dolby Vision, HDR10 and with SDR content. I hope you found this useful. If you have, then please do give the video a like. If you watch our videos and you haven't quite subscribed yet, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.